Welcome everyone to part 3 of this Blender tutorial series where we're creating this Star Destroyer bridge scene. So in this part, we're going to be modeling a bunch of sci-fi details. So we're going to be modeling some sci-fi details on the ceiling. We're also going to be modeling like a bunch of little panels and buttons and things on this panel right here and also down here as well. Real quick though, before we start, this video was brought to you by my Martian Environment Blender course. So I've created a 7-part Blender tutorial series where I'll show you step by step in real time how to create this Martian environment right here. I'll have a link in the video description to the trailer video if you'd like to learn more about the course, and I'll also have a link to the product on Gumroad if you'd like to purchase. And purchasing the course is a really great way to help support me and this YouTube channel. Alright, so to start off, I'm going to be modeling all the little sci-fi panels and details and controls down here in these little areas, these little control areas under the ground. So I'm first going to press Shift-C just to make sure this 3D cursor here is in the very center of our scene. So I can now press Shift-A and I'm going to start with a cube. I'm now going to tab into edit mode and I'll press G to grab, and I'm just going to bring this down here, and then I'll also press S to scale, bring that down, and press G to grab and kind of move this over. Alright, so I can now press S to scale, and I want to scale it up on the Z axis, and I'm just going to scale up quite a bit, and I want to scale it up so that it goes a little bit through the ground, so I'll press G and Z now and just kind of push that down, and then I can also press S, and I want to scale it on the X axis and make it a little bit smaller, and then I can press G to grab, and I'm just going to stick it right in here into the wall. So then I can also press S to scale, and I want to scale it on the Y axis, and I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating 3 different like control panels, and then we'll just be duplicating them around. So I'm now going to press 3 on the top of my keyboard or click right up here to the face select. I'm now just going to select this face, and I want to press Shift-D to duplicate it because I want to use this face to make some of the buttons. So I'll just press S to scale, and I want to scale this way down, and then I'll press S to scale, and I'll scale it on the Y axis, and I just want to make it about a square shape, and we're going to be using this to make the square buttons. So I'll press G to grab, and I'm just going to bring this up, and I'll press S to scale, and I'll scale it down pretty small because I do want the buttons to be kind of small, not too big. So if I press 0 to go into the camera view, I can kind of zoom in here, and I do want to scale them down a little bit more, probably something about that size. So I'll press period on the numpad, and that's just going to zoom me over to it. So something like that. So I'm going to bring this first one kind of right about here, and then I'll bring it pretty close just like that, and then I'll press E to extrude, and I'm going to extrude that back. Then what I can do is hover my mouse over this button, and I'm going to press L, and that is going to select all of the linked vertices, and I can press Shift-D and Z, and I'm just going to bring this down, and then just click to place that. So now that I've duplicated that one time and moved it over all in one action, I can now press Shift-R, and Shift-R is going to repeat the last action. And I'm just going to make 5 of those buttons. And then also I can press L, hover my mouse over those objects, and press L to select all the linked vertices. And I think I'll just bring this over kind of like that and maybe bring it down. All right, there we go. So that is looking pretty good. And I do think I'll just tab back into edit mode and scale them down just a little bit. All right, so now I want to press A to deselect everything, and I'm just going to press L and just select one of these buttons. I'm now going to press Shift-D to duplicate it, bring it over here, and I'll press S to scale and scale it up a little bit. And then I'll press S and Z, and I'm going to scale the entire thing up a little bit. And we're going to make another little glowing light. And then I'll also hover my mouse over this and press L and L, and then I'll press Shift-D, click and hold with my mouse wheel to constrain it to the Y axis, and I'm just going to bring it over there just like that, and then click to place that. And then I can also press L to select this entire thing, and I can press Shift-D and Z, and we're going to bring it down, and then I'll also press G and Y and just bring that over. Just put it somewhere like that. All right, so that is good. And then also I need to double tap the A key, and I need to press Shift-N to recalculate the normals. All right, so that is pretty good. Let's tab back into edit mode, and then right over here, I'm going to make another panel. So I'm going to select this face, and then I'll press Shift-D to duplicate, and S to scale. We're going to scale it down, and then I'll press S and Z, and we're going to bring that down a little bit and maybe scale that down a little bit more. All right, and maybe I'll bring that up just a little bit. I'm now going to press E to extrude, and I'm going to extrude that back in just like that. And then I'll press A to deselect everything, and then I need to hover my mouse over this and press L to select it, and I'll press Shift-D to duplicate and bring it over here, and I'll also press S to scale and G to grab, and I'm just going to stick it right about there on that little metal piece. All right, and then I'll tab into edit mode and I'm going to press A to deselect everything, and I'll press L again to select all the linked vertices, and I'll press Shift D and Z, and we're going to bring that down. Then I can press S to scale, and I'm going to scale that down, and I'll kind of bring it back there. And then I can press S to scale and Y on the Y axis, and I'll just make that a bit smaller. And then I'll press G to grab, click and hold with my mouse wheel, just kind of bring it over like that. And then I want to make 3 of them, so I'll press Shift D, click and hold with my mouse wheel, and then Shift D, click and hold with my mouse wheel, just like that. So you can see now there's 3 of them. And then I want to double tap the A key, and again, I want to press Shift N to just make sure the normals are recalculated. So now we have our first panel, and we kind of have our second one. This is maybe some sort of like control board or something. So I want to duplicate this one and just have one more over here. So I'll hover my mouse over this object and press L, and that's going to select all the linked vertices. And then I can press Shift D to duplicate, click and hold with my mouse wheel, and just bring that over, and then click to place that. Now I want to hover my mouse over one of these, and I'll press L to select that. Then I'll press Shift D, click with my mouse wheel to constrain it to the axes, and we're going to bring that over. And then I'll also press G and Z, and we're going to bring that down. I can press Shift D, and then again, click with my mouse wheel, bring it over here. And then I want to hover my mouse over this object and press L to select it. And this time I want to make kind of like a bunch of buttons really close to each other. So I'll press Shift D, and then I'll press Z, and we're just going to bring that down, and then just click to place that. So I can now press Shift R and Shift R again, and that's going to repeat the last action. And now you can see that we have those right there, and that is looking very good. And then I think I'll just press L to select all these, and I think I actually want to kind of move them over and maybe down a little bit. Okay, something like that. And then I also want to select this, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate it, and I'll press S to scale. I'm just going to bring that over, maybe scale it down on the Z axis, and I just want to have maybe one big panel. So I'll press E to extrude and just kind of bring that back in, just like that. And then I definitely don't want to overdo the buttons because it is pretty easy to add too many buttons. When I was creating this result, it was pretty easy to add too many buttons. So I just want to add a few more buttons kind of up here, but not very many more. So I'm going to hover my mouse over this button, and I'll press L to select all the linked vertices, and then I'll also press L to select this one. So I'll press Shift D, click and hold with my mouse wheel, and I'm just going to bring this up and over, maybe like that. And then I can press L just to select this button, and I can bring it over and bring it down. And then I think I'll just kind of duplicate this, maybe put one right there, maybe scale this one up a little bit, and then also press L and just select this one. I'll press Shift D and Z, kind of bring that down just like that. So just a few buttons there. And then I also want to double tap the A key to select everything, and I'll press Shift N to recalculate the normals. And then I'm going to tab back into edit mode again, and I'm actually going to press L to select this one, and I'm going to rotate it on the X axis by 90 degrees, just so that we have one kind of going back and forth as well. I think that looks pretty cool. We could also maybe duplicate this and just put it down there. All right, so that is looking pretty cool, although I do just want to make it look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to add a bevel modifier. So I'm going to click on add modifier, and we can add the bevel modifier under the generate. And then the segments, I'm going to turn that up to like 3. And then on the amount here, I'm going to hold down the shift key and click and drag. And I'm just going to make this really tiny, just so that there's a tiny little bevel. And then I can shade this smooth with the object context menu. All right, so that is looking pretty cool. So I now just want to duplicate these and kind of rotate them all around and put them around the walls. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I can double tap the A key to select everything. And then I want to press 7 on the numpad to go to the top view. And then I want to press Z and move my mouse over to go into wireframe so I can see that. So I'll now press A to select everything, and I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate. Bring that over, click to place that, and then I'll press R to rotate. And you can see we have the rotation by individual origins on, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to escape that, and then I'm going to click right up here, and I want to change it to a median point. That way, when we press R to rotate, the entire thing is going to rotate together. So I can press R to rotate and G to grab, and I'm just going to like stick this right there. And then I want to press B for the box select, and I want to click with my mouse wheel and drag over and let go just to deselect that entire piece. Then I can press R to rotate and G to grab and just kind of stick it right there. And then again, I want to press B for the box select. I'm going to click with my mouse wheel and then let go just to deselect that. And then I'll press R to rotate and G to grab. We're we're just going to move that over. So you can kind of see what we're getting now. So we're just kind of duplicating these and we're moving them all along. And that way we won't have to model each individual one. We can just model 3 of them and then just kind of duplicate them over. Now also, before we continue, I do want to add the mirror modifier so it mirrors it over to the other side. So let's click on add modifier and we're going to go right down here. If I can find it, we want to add the mirror modifier right there. So now it mirrors it over to the other side. And so we don't have to model all of them. We can just model some of them and it'll duplicate that over. Although to make it a little bit more realistic, later on this tutorial series, we are going to be applying the mirror modifier and just changing a few things, like changing some of the buttons so it doesn't look exactly mirrored. All right, so let's duplicate these and move them over. So I'm going to press 7 for top view, and I'll press Z and move my mouse over and let go to go into wireframe. So I can now press B for the box select, and I want to click and drag, and then let go just to select those 3, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate and R to rotate, and that isn't quite going to fit. You can see that's not really quite fitting, but that is okay. I'll just kind of put these into place, kind of rotate them just like that, something like that, and then I'm going to press B for the box select. I'll just deselect these. I can press G to grab, and then B for the box select. I want to click with my middle mouse wheel just to deselect, and then I'll just press G to grab and move over. All right, there we go. So I did manage to make it fit, but if for some reason it's not fitting, you could just like add a loop cut and kind of cut out the edge and make it a bit smaller, or you could like box select these vertices and pull them back, or you could just delete this one right here, whatever you want to do. All right, that is looking pretty cool. Now from the camera view, we can kind of only see that. So if that's all you want to do, that's fine. To save time, I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to have the camera pointing in other directions. You could totally keep on duplicating this. You could duplicate it and move it around that wall and kind of move it around that wall. But to save time, I'm not going to do that because all I'm going for is this final result right here. So that is going to be it for those parts. All right, so now we're going to be creating all of the sci-fi details on this panel here. So we're going to be creating a bunch of little panels and buttons and things like that. So I'm just going to tab into edit mode, and you can see that all we have to do is we have to create a bunch of details here, and then we'll mirror it over to the other side, and then it'll wrap it around. Now it is a little bit hard to see because there's this thing here, so I'm going to tab back into object mode, and I'm just going to select this object, and then I will press Control I. Control I is going to invert the selection, so that way everything else is selected, and then I can press H, and H is going to hide everything. So you can see in the outliner, it's still there, but it's just hidden from our view, and then when we want everything to come back, we can press Alt H, and that will unhide everything. I'm just going to press H to hide it. So I can now just select this object, and I want to press tab to go into edit mode, and now we can just add the different sci-fi details and panels and things right here. So I'm first just going to move right over here, and then I'm going to Alt and select this, and then also hold down the Shift key and Alt key and select this. So what I want to do is kind of extrude this out and make it a bit thicker. So I'm going to press E to extrude, and then I'm going to press S to scale, and I want to scale it. And I just want to scale it out, but I don't want to scale it out back and forth. I just want to scale it up and to the side. So after I press S to scale, I'm going to press Shift X. And Shift X is going to make it so it's not scaled on the X axis, but it's just scaled on the Z and the Y. So I can now just bring this out just a little bit like that and then click to place that. So you can see now we just have that little panel that's kind of being bumped up just like that. So I want to do that a few more times for some other things. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, select this loop of vertices, and then hold down the Shift and Alt key and select this one. And then I'll press E to extrude. And then right after that, I'll press S to scale. And then again, I want to press Shift S so it doesn't scale it on the X axis. Just bring it up a little bit and then click to place that. And then right over here, I also want to press Control R, and I'm going to add a loop cut here, and I'm going to click and drag over and then click to place that. And then I want to press 3 or click right over here to the face select, and I want to Alt and select this loop of vertices. So I can now press E to extrude and then S to scale. And again, I want to press Shift X and just bring it down a little bit and then click to place that. So there we go. We now have a little groove right in there. Let's also navigate kind of over here towards the end, and I want to press A and just make sure everything is deselected. And then I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click right here to select that loop of vertices, and then hold down the Shift and Alt key and select that loop of vertices. So again, I can press E to extrude and then S to scale. And then again, we need to press Shift X to scale it on the Z and Y, and then just click to place that. Let's also make a bigger one right here. So I'm going to Alt select this, and then Shift and Alt and select these. And then I'll press E to extrude, and then S to scale. And then I want to press Shift Y and just kind of bring that up like that. And then I also want to press Control R and add a loop cut right in here. And I want to left click and then right click to place that. And then what I can do is I can select some different faces here. So I need to go to the face select, and then I'm going to just select some different faces, maybe some faces right here, maybe some over here, something like that. And then I want to press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude that up and just add a little bit more detail there. And then also I can shift and select some more pieces, maybe one right there and one right there, and I can press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude that back down a little bit. All right, there we go. And then I also want to add another groove kind of like this, but kind of add it over here. So I'm going to press Control R and then click and drag over and then click to place that. And then I want to press 3 again, or click right up here to the face select, and I'm going to Alt select this, just Alt select that loop of vertices. And again, I'll press E to extrude and then S to scale, and then I'll press Shift X, and I'm just going to bring that down just like that, click to place that. And I keep tabbing into edit mode because I want to see what it looks like in object mode, but then I keep forgetting that we're using the curve object. So if you tab back into object mode, you can just kind of look around here and see how it's looking. And you can also press 0 to go into the camera view and just see how that's looking, and I think that is looking very cool. Although we do need to add quite a bit more detail, so I'm going to tab back into edit mode. Now right here in the middle, I think I want to just select this and press E to extrude, just add a little detail there. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I'm going to select this face and then shift select this face, and I want to create kind of like a little monitor screen here. So I'm going to press I to inset and just kind of bring that down, and then I can press E to extrude and bring that down and click to place that. So now we have just kind of a little bit of a monitor, just like that. I'm also going to select this and I'll press I to inset, and then I can also press S to scale, and I want to scale this on the X axis, and I'm just going to bring that down, click to place that, and then I can press E to extrude, and we're just going to bring that down just like that. And then also kind of right over here, I'm going to shift select 3 of these, and I'm going to press I to inset, and I want to press I twice, and that way they will all be separate. And I'm just going to bring that down, and then I can press E to extrude and kind of extrude that back there. All right, that was looking pretty cool. Let's go back over here. I can press 0 to go into the camera view. Just see how that's looking. That is looking very good. And then I'll tab back into edit mode, and let's just add some more details. So I also want to add something like this, but instead of it going back in, I want it to be going up and out. So I'm just going to find a spot that looks good. I think something right here. So I'll press Control R, click, and then drag over and click to place that. And then maybe double tap the G key and move it back a little bit. So I can now again press 3 and go to the face select, and I can Alt select this ring of vertices, and then I'll press E to extrude, and I want to press S to scale, and then again Shift X and just bring that up and then click to place that. All right, that is looking quite good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of these faces, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate, then I'll press S to scale, and then I want to press S and I want to scale it on the X axis. I'll just bring that out. I can press period on the numpad to zoom over to it, and I want to scale this down a little bit, maybe bring it over there, and then I'll press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude that back in. And then I can also just press L to select the entire piece right there, and I can press Shift D, and I can just kind of move it over and scale it, and maybe just put like a little piece right there. All right, that is good. And then I could also press Shift D and maybe press S and Y, and also press S and X, and maybe just make a little one, maybe duplicate this and make another one just like that, and maybe another one. And then I need to select everything, and I need to press Shift N to recalculate the normals. All right, I'm going to go back into object mode and just kind of look around and see how that is looking, and I do like that. Tab into edit mode again. And this time I'm going to go right over here, and I'll press I to inset that down, and then I'll press S to scale, and X on the X axis, kind of bring that in, and then I'll press E to extrude, bring that down, click to place that. And then also let's select one of these faces, and I want to press Shift D to duplicate, and then I'll press S to scale, and then I'll press S and X and kind of make that a bit smaller, just kind of bring it down, and then I can press E to extrude, kind of bring that down, and then I can deselect everything and press L just to select that, and I'll press Shift D, click and hold with my mouse wheel, and just kind of bring that over, just like that. And we could also do that a few more times, maybe just duplicate this and put that over like that. And then I want to select everything again, and I need to press Shift N to recalculate the normals. All right, so that is looking pretty good. I like how that is. So now I'm gonna create some sci-fi buttons. So I'm first just gonna select one of these faces, one of these square faces, or pretty square, and I'll press Shift-D to duplicate it, and then S to scale, and we're gonna scale that way down. And just like the other Sci-Fi Details, I wanna make just a square button. So a square glowing button, and later on in this tutorial series, we are gonna be adding an emission material to it to make it look like it's glowing white and red colors. So I'll just scale it down, just put it right there, and then I'll press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude that back in. And then you can see that the bevel is a little bit strong. So if you scroll down here to the modifier properties, I'm going to turn the amount of the bevel just a little bit smaller so that that is a little bit more square. Then I can press L to select it, and I can basically just duplicate these and put them all over the place. But I don't want to overdo it because it is kind of easy to overdo. When I made this result a few other times, one time I did put too many buttons, so I kind of had to go back and delete some of the buttons. And again, I am looking at reference images. If you want to go ahead and look at reference images from the movie, you could totally do that. There are some buttons here and there, but they're not all over the place. All right, so I'm just going to press Shift-D to duplicate, and G and Z, we're going to bring that down. Press Shift-D, bring that over, click to place that, and then I can press Shift-R and just duplicate that a few different times. And then I'll press L to select these buttons, and I'll press Shift-D, kind of move them over. I can also press S and scale it up, and press S and Y, and we're just going to bring that out. Maybe just put it over there, and then I can press Shift-D to duplicate, and drop another one right there. And then I'm going to go back over here and press L to select this one. I'll press Shift-D to duplicate, kind of bring this over, and press G and Z. We're just going to bring that down just like that. And then I'll press Shift-D to duplicate, bring that over there. And I'll press Shift-D and bring that up. Just add a button right there. And I'll also duplicate this again. Maybe add just a few buttons right there, and maybe also add another button kind of right over here. Maybe scale this one up, make this a little glowing light, just like that. Let's tab back into object mode, and I can press 0 to go into the camera view and just see how that is looking. So they're a little bit hard to see because they're at such an angle, but when they have the lights, you'll definitely be able to see them better. All right, let's tab into edit mode again, and I'm gonna go right over here, and I want to press L and select that button right there. And then I'm going to press 1 to go to front view, actually 3 on the numpad to go to side view. So I wanna press Shift-D to duplicate this button now, and I wanna rotate it so it's at the same angle as this. So I'll press R to rotate and G to grab. We're just gonna stick this right down there, something like that. Actually, I need to bring it down, kind of down there. Just place it like that. All right, so I can now press Shift-D to duplicate, bring that over, and then I can press Shift-R and add a few more buttons. Then I can press L to select that, and I'll add another one right there. I can press 3 to go to side view, and I can press Z and move my mouse over to go into wireframe, and I'll press Shift-D and just duplicate those buttons. Just add a few more, like one right there and there. All right, that is cool. I'll press Shift-D to duplicate, and I want to put a button right there. Maybe just bring it down here and kind of put it in the corner, just like that. And then I'm going to select this button right here, and I'll press Shift-D to duplicate it and kind of bring it over. And I want to make a longer glowing light, so I'll press S to scale, and I'll scale it on the Y-axis. Just scale it up like that, and then click to place that. And then we can go 3 for side view, and I want to rotate that. Press G to grab, and we're going to stick it right down there, maybe scale it down a little bit. So now that we've added that, I want to kind of duplicate this over a few times. So I'll press Shift-D to duplicate, drop it there, and then I can press Shift-R and make a few of them, just like that. And then also I want to select this, and I'll press I to inset, kind of inset that down, and then I can press E to extrude, and I can make like a little panel there. Let's also press Control-R to add a loop cut right here, and I'm going to left click and then right click. And then I can go back to the face select, and I can select this face, and I'll press I to inset. And then this time I could maybe extrude this out so it's kind of going up. That looks pretty cool. Maybe extrude out a little bit more. Just like that. And then I do think we have a little bit too many buttons nearby here. So I'm going to press L and just like select all of these ones right here. Pressing L just to select all of those buttons. And then I'll press G to grab, and I'll bring it over on the Y-axis, actually the X-axis, and just kind of put them over there. So they're not quite as bunched up. And then I will press L again to select the button, and I'll press Shift-D to duplicate it. Drop another one right there. I can press 3 for side view, and I can go into wireframe, and I can add another button, maybe down there, just like that. All right, so I think we have enough buttons over here, but I want to add some more lights and buttons kind of over here. So I'm going to press L to select one of those buttons, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate, kind of bring another one over there. And this one, if I press period on the numpad to zoom over to it, I want to press S to scale, and I want to scale it on the x-axis and kind of make it a little bit longer. I think that does look pretty cool. And then I'll press Shift D to duplicate it, and I'll put one more kind of right up there, just like that. Then I can press Shift D to duplicate and maybe scale this one on the x-axis, just down like that. And then if I press 3 to go to side view, I can press Shift D to duplicate and drop another button right there. And then I'll press Shift D to duplicate and add another one there, so we have like 4 buttons really close to each other. And then right back over here, I'm going to press L and just select some of these buttons, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate, click with my mouse wheel, just kind of bring that over and maybe bring it back a little bit, and I can just kind of bring this down, just like that. And then I can press Shift D again. Let's bring some more over. Maybe we can rotate this on the Z-axis. So I'll type in 9, 0, and enter just to rotate that over. And let's just bring this one kind of more into the center like that. Maybe bring it down a little bit. And then I'll select this face and I'll press I to inset. And then I'll press E to extrude and just kind of extrude that back in there. E to extrude, just like that. And then I can select this face and I'll press Shift D to duplicate and S to scale. Maybe scale that down, just scale it in like that. And then I can press E to extrude, maybe bring it down a little bit, and then I can extrude that back in just like that. All right, so that is looking pretty good on the top. Of course, we can play around with this later once we add the materials in the next part of the tutorial series. But I do want to add a little bit more details kind of in here and maybe just a few more around here, but we are getting towards the end of that. We do have a lot of details and that's looking pretty cool. So I just want to select this and I'll press I to inset, and then I can press S to scale and scale it on the x-axis, scale it in, and then I can maybe scale it down a little bit more so it's kind of thin, and I'll press E to extrude and I'll extrude that back in there just like that. Then I can also just select one of these faces and I'll press Shift D to duplicate and S to scale, and I can also scale this on the x-axis just to make a little piece right there. And then I can extrude that back in just so that we have a little piece there. I can press L to select that. And then let's just press Shift D. And I want to put one of these pieces maybe over there and maybe add another one like that. And then I can just select this face. I'll press Shift D to duplicate. I can scale this down and then I can scale it on the x-axis. Again, we're going to make like a little panel here. Maybe scale that up and press E to extrude. Actually, that was way too far. So I'll press Control Z to undo that. Bring this in and press E to extrude, just like that. Double tap the A key and I'll press Shift N to recalculate the normals. Let's actually tab back into object mode and we can go into the camera view and just kind of take a look back at this and see how we're doing. So that is looking pretty good. I think I might just add a few more buttons here and there, maybe something right there, but this is looking pretty good. I like all the details. So I'll tab into edit mode and let's just add a few things just to fill in some areas. So right here, I'll press I to inset and E to extrude. And definitely looking at reference images can be really helpful for these sci-fi details. I'm just looking at some different reference images of this to get an idea for what I want to make. I'll select this one, I'll press E to extrude, and then I'll maybe select this face and just extrude that up, something like that. And then let's go right over here. I can press I to inset that, and I'll press I twice so they're connected. Maybe bring that down, and then I can just extrude that back in. And then I'll also select this and press I to inset and maybe extrude that back in a little bit more. I think I'll just select some of these buttons and press Shift D to duplicate and just drop some of the buttons right there. And also maybe right here. So this one doesn't have very many details, so I could just add a few buttons right there. Maybe duplicate this and make a few more. Maybe right here I can press I to inset, scale that down a little bit more, and then we can inset it just like that. All right, let's go back into the camera view, and I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to press Alt H to unhide everything. And let's just look over that one more time. I think I just want to add a few more details kind of on these edges right here and maybe right there, but that is looking pretty good. So right here, I think like right here, this could use something. So I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate and I'll just scale that way down. I can press period on the numpad and that is going to jump me over to this, and then I can extrude that back. Let's press L to select that entire piece, and then I can maybe just duplicate that a few times. All right, that is pretty cool. And then I also am going to press Control R and I'm going to add a loop cut right here, and then I can just click to place that. And then back over here on the face select, I can just kind of bring that in and extrude it back. Something like that. All right, that is really good. So I'll just press Ctrl S to save, and that looks really cool. Now we have all those sci-fi details and panels there. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do in this part of the tutorial series is we're going to be creating a bunch of sci-fi details on the ceiling here. So to do that, I'm going to press Shift C again to center the 3D cursor, and then I will press Shift A, and I'm going to start by adding a cube. I'm now going to press G and Z, and I'm just going to bring this cube up. I can also press period on the numpad to zoom over to it. And then I can tab into edit mode, and I want to press S to scale. And I want to scale it on the Z axis and just make it really small. And then I can press G and Z and just kind of bring it down. And I'll also press S and X, and we're going to bring that down and just kind of stick it in there just like that. And then also I can press Shift D to duplicate and just kind of bring it over here. I'll also scale it on the X-axis and just make it a little bit smaller. And then I'll Shift D this again to duplicate it, bring it over. I'll press S and Y, make that a little bit smaller. And I'll also duplicate this and kind of bring it over. So hopefully you can kind of get what I'm doing. I'm basically just creating a bunch of little cubes here and just kind of duplicating them around to add some cool sci-fi details. I'm also going to press L to select this one, and then I can press Shift D to duplicate, click and drag with my mouse wheel, and maybe just add one kind of sticking out here, maybe move this over, maybe bring it down a little bit, something like that. I can also press 0 to go into the camera view because really we are just going to be looking at this from the camera's perspective, so I just want to make sure it looks good in the camera view. I can press L to select this, and I'll press S, and I want to scale it on the X-axis, and then I can press Shift D and maybe duplicate this a couple of times. I can also press Shift D to duplicate and just kind of bring that over there, and maybe scale it up and out a little bit. Maybe bring it over just like that. I can also press Shift D to duplicate and bring it over on the Y-axis, and just add another one right there. And then I can also duplicate this and just kind of maybe move it up like that, and bring it over like that. And then I'll select this face right here and I'll duplicate it and scale it down and maybe bring it over on the Y-axis, and then I can extrude it down just like that. And then I need to double tap the A key and press Shift N to recalculate the normals. And then just like these parts down here, I want to create some little squares, and those squares are going to be lights. So I'm going to select one of these faces and I'll press period on the numpad to zoom over to it, and I can just duplicate this and scale it down on the Y-axis, and then just scale it down something like that, and then maybe just move it over and kind of stick it into place, and I can extrude it up, and then I can press L to select all of the linked vertices, and I'll just move this over, and then I can press Shift D and then click and drag with my mouse wheel and let go to constrain it on the Y-axis. Click to place that, and then I can press Shift R and just duplicate that a few times. Then I can also press L to select the linked vertices, and I'll just kind of put this one over there. Maybe press Shift D to duplicate and put another one over there. Then I can press Shift D to duplicate again, and we're going to bring another one over, maybe bring it over here. We're going to stick it into the wall, and this one maybe I'll scale out, maybe make that a little bit long. Then I can duplicate this, kind of move it over there, and then I can make that a bit thicker and scale it out. So I am looking at reference images just to kind of see how the sci-fi details are in the movie. And I'm also looking at my other tutorial result when I was practicing the tutorial. But really, this doesn't require too much skill, really just looking at reference images and just deciding what looks cool, and just duplicating some faces and just kind of sticking them around. Because after looking at reference images, especially like from screenshots from the movie, it does really seem quite random. There's just a bunch of little panels here and there. So I'm going to select this one, I'll duplicate this, maybe move this over and just kind of bring that over there, stick it into place. I think I'll duplicate that again, maybe put one over here and maybe scale that down. And I need to select everything and press Shift N again to recalculate the normals. And then I want to press L, and I'm just going to continue to press L just to select all those right there. And I'll press Shift D to duplicate, maybe just kind of move this over here and just kind of bring it over just like that. I'll press Shift D to duplicate, and I can move this over, and I think I'll press R to rotate, and I'll rotate it on the Z axis, and I'll type in 9, 0, and enter just to bring that over. And then I could just maybe stick this in just like that. And then I'll press L to select this one. I'll press Shift D to duplicate and just move this over here, and then maybe scale this up, kind of stick it into the wall there, and then I'll duplicate this again, maybe make a bigger one. And then I can also select this and I'll press Shift D to duplicate, maybe bring that over, and I think I'll scale it on the X-axis, and I'll just like stick it right up here so it's kind of like connecting both of them. bring that down a little bit, just like that, and then I can extrude this back up like that. And then I will press L to select this one, duplicate this one, scale that down, and then I want to duplicate another one, and I think I'll make a pretty long one. I want to make one that's kind of going out of the camera shot, so just like that, and I think I'll scale this one up, and this one I'm gonna kind of stick right in here, scale that up and kind of stick it right up there, just like that, maybe make it a little bit thicker, and then I can also press Ctrl R to add some loop cuts. I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel out and just add some more detail, and then I can left click and right click. And then I can go to the face select, and I think I will inset some of these. So I'll press I to inset and then E to extrude. Add that, and then this one I think I'll just press E to extrude and extrude that out a little bit. And then I can also maybe select this on the side here and extrude that out a little bit, and maybe do that as well right here, maybe extrude that out. Let's go to the camera view, see how that's looking. I think that is pretty cool. And we could also press L to select this entire thing, and I'll press Shift D to duplicate it, and then I can press G to grab and Y on the Y-axis and just kind of bring this over. Maybe also scale it down and kind of bring it up. And then I think I will select this face here, and I'm going to press I to inset, maybe bring that over to the side, and then I could extrude it back in just like that. Maybe select this, press Ctrl R to add a loop cut, and then I think I'll select this face. I can press I to inset, and then I can press E to extrude, and maybe actually extrude it back up. That looks pretty cool. So now that we've created some cool shapes and things, I can actually just kind of reuse what we've already created. So I can tab into edit mode, and I'm going to press L and just continue to press L and select some of these pieces right here. So now that I've selected some of those pieces, I can press Shift D to duplicate, and I can also scale them down and kind of bring them over, and maybe bring them over here, just bring them in. And also I can press S to scale, and then I can press X on the X axis, and I can type in -1 and enter. And that is going to flip it or mirror it, and then I can maybe just kind of stick it just like that. All right, that is pretty cool. I think I'll select this and duplicate it, and maybe bring this over like that. All right, that is pretty good. Maybe just select this face, kind of bring it down and extrude it back in there. Maybe extrude that out and extrude that over to the side. And I will inset that and extrude it out just like that. So by now I think you've kind of gotten the point, and you really don't have to follow me step by step. You can just create whatever you think looks cool. So it's just something like this. And then also something else that I want to do is press Ctrl R and just add a loop cut right there. Then I can press 3 to go to the face select and just select this face, and I can extrude it out and kind of bring it back in just like that. So there's kind of a piece kind of going down like that. I think that looks pretty cool. So I think I might do that for just a few other areas. So I think I will duplicate this and kind of scale it out, maybe bring it over, and I can extrude it back in, and then I can extrude this out, and I'll also bring it back down, something like that. That is pretty cool. Maybe I'll inset this face, kind of bring it over to the side, and I'll extrude that out a little bit. Maybe I'll duplicate this as well and just kind of rotate it over and maybe scale it down a little bit. All right, so I am gonna call this finished. So you can just go ahead and pause the video and keep on working on this however long you want. Just make something cool like this. This is what I've created, and I do think that looks pretty cool. And I think this is great for the Sci-Fi Details. So I'll just press Ctrl S again to save, and this is gonna wrap it up for part 3 of the tutorial series. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've been enjoying the series so far. And if you'd like to watch part 4, I'll throw part 4 right up there on the end screen. You can just click on that, or you can also find the link in the video description. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in part 4.